Hi, all, and welcome back to another episode of There's Danger Here. I'm Leilani, and it is the top of the month, so once again, we are going to go over some more of the MMIW cases, and we are still in the B's. So let's start with Bella Labukan McLean. Bella was First Nations from Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation in Alberta. Her parents were educators who developed Cree curriculum for language revitalization after attaining their master's in education. From a young age, family reports Bella was creative, bright, and determined. She melded traditional beadwork skills with contemporary fashion. She loved music and was supporting and loving. Bella and one of her older sisters attended Portage College to learn the fine-tuned skills in beading and tanning hide. She also attended the University of Alberta to pursue a degree in textiles and then ended up transferring to Huber College in Toronto in 2011 to complete her degree in fashion arts. The move put her more than 1,700 miles away from home. Still, according to family, she kept in touch, checking in with friends and family almost daily. On July 20th, 2013, 3 months after graduating from Huber College, the then 25-year-old fell. At approximately 05, she fell 31 stories from a downtown condo building. This resulted in her death. Bella had arrived at the condo earlier that night with 5 other people after a night out at a club. According to Toronto police, there was not enough evidence to prove homicide, but called the death suspicious, keeping the investigation open. Police knocked on all of the doors of the condo and surrounding area and interviewed all those who were in the condo that Bella fell from. All of them reported being unaware that anything had even happened. Police examined cell phone records, watched surveillance videos, and followed up with the nightclub Bella had been at earlier that evening. They also instructed a forensic team to do a workup on the unit that she fell from. Detective Darren Worth with the Toronto Police stated, quote, "Realistically, we would need someone, potentially who was there, to come forward to tell us something they're not telling us," end quote, after exhausting all other avenues and really finding nothing. Melina Labukan, Massimo Bella's sister, has been an advocate for Indigenous rights for more than a decade. She, along with the rest of the family, cannot fathom what even happened to her. Melina stated, quote, "They have tried to maintain their innocence by saying that they didn't know what happened, which is really hard for us to believe because it was such a small condo," end quote. Also, she did state, quote, "Basically, from what I've heard, is that it's very hard not to see anything unless they're all in the bathroom, one bathroom, or the bedroom," end quote. Family also reported that they've never been granted access to Bella's autopsy report. Krista Big Canoe, the legal advocacy director for Aboriginal Legal Services of Toronto, reported, quote, "While there's an ongoing investigation, it's difficult to get information," end quote. Melina said they have requested files from the Toronto Police and the coroner twice over the 2 years. The second time was in 2014. Still at this time, there have been no further updates. Bernadette Ahinecu was born in 1967 in Saskatchewan, Canada. Family states she was someone who was spontaneous, who loved to cook, and help around the house. Bernadette spent 10 years in foster care, with multiple sources reporting that it was a very negative experience, that she suffered from physical and sexual abuse. The result of her trauma pushed Bernadette into drug use. To support the habit, she worked as a sex worker. In 1989, the then 22-year-old lived in Edmonton, Alberta, and was last seen in September by a friend getting into a van with a male described as quote-unquote Italian after splitting a purchase of cocaine, which Bernadette planned to take home to her common-law husband, Simon Stadden. On October 24th, 1989, a man was clearing brush when he found the naked remains of Bernadette along a rural road near Sherwood Park. The CARE unit, an RCMP entity that investigates files of missing or murdered vulnerable persons throughout the province, is handling the homicide. Family members say investigators no longer contact them. However, family does credit Simon for being the one to initiate the investigation, filing a missing persons report, and that he even attempted to find her on his own prior to her discovery. While I couldn't find much information on the investigation, there is one source that reported that Thomas Svelka is a suspect in Bernadette's murder. Thomas is convicted of murdering another sex worker, Laura Ahinakyu, in 1990. Bernadine Leanne Kiwazins was born on April 22nd, 1975, and was a member of the Yellow Quill First Nations. The oldest sibling in her family, they report her as a smart, outgoing woman. Her aunt, Adeline, stated, quote, "She was a smart girl, very outgoing. She always seemed to be happy when I seen her," end quote. By 2012, she was the mother of 5 of her own children. Bernadine was last seen on 20th Street West in Saskatoon on January 1st, 2012 at approximately 10 p.m. There were also unconfirmed reports of her in the area of 20th Street around 4 a.m. on January 2nd. Later that day, around 9:45, the 36-year-old's body was found 2 kilometers east of Saskatoon city limits in a Saskatchewan ditch by a woman and her dog. Bernadine was located just off of the main road, partially obscured by the snow, but had no signs of being in the elements for a long period of time. The Saskatchewan RCMP Major Crimes Unit canvassed the area, searching for witnesses. Officers believe Bernadine's death is suspicious, though her cause of death has not been released. Her file remains open, but inactive at this time. Bernice Bottle. Bernice grew up in Lac Seul First Nation, an Ojibwe community in northwestern Ontario, before she ended up moving to Winnipeg, Manitoba. She went along with common-law husband and her 2 children. According to the family, the 36-year-old was found dead in an apartment in the city in 1988. Little is known about Bernice's life in Winnipeg, but her family is still seeking answers and wants police to investigate her death. Bernice was the oldest sibling that came from Canoe River, Ontario, one of Lac Seul First Nation's original communities. Charlie Bottle remembers his sister as someone who loved to cook and sew quilts. Quote, "She was a very caring person. She tried to help people when they needed help," end quote. Despite being 1 year younger, Bernice seemed to look up to Charlie when he left the community for work. He heard his sister was living in an apartment in the city when she collapsed. According to Charlie, Bernice struggled with alcoholism. Another sibling, Mary Agnes, remembers police telling her that Bernice died from drinking quote-unquote ruby, which is another word for rubbing alcohol. But Mary says a brother Percy told her that she was murdered. According to Mary, the last time that police even contacted the family was at the time of her death. Quote, "That was a long time ago. I don't know what they would find out now," end quote, she said about it. And that is all the information on her case. Betsy Owens was born on July 7th, 1973. She was a member of the Powagasi First Nation, close with her sisters Caroline Owens and Valerie Levique, and loved swimming with them in the fishing lake, the body of water that surrounds the community. According to her family, Betsy was a nice girl who went out of her way to avoid trouble. She loved music, and at the time of her disappearance was a big fan of quote Manic Monday, end quote, by the Bangles. On October 23rd, 1988, the then 15-year-old vanished after leaving her boyfriend's home. The two had attended a school dance the night before, heading to his house at approximately 11 p.m. Carolyn reported, quote, "I remember she was happy, laughing," end quote. Local community members conducted searches for Betsy immediately following her disappearance, but were unable to turn up any evidence. Subsequent searches conducted by law enforcement in 1996 and 1997 were pretty much the same. They didn't find anything. The lead investigator for missing persons said that there was foul play suspected. However, family was told that there was not enough evidence to make any arrests in Betsy's case. The lead investigator last visited the community during the summer of 2014, and family members do not know if there are any leads in the case. Sister Caroline provided DNA sample the summer before, and that is the last information found on her case at this time. Bonnie Lynn Jack, also known as Bonnie Lynn Lloyd, grew up in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. She grew up near the pig farm, yes, that pig farm, and stated, quote, "I know probably about 6 of those girls that they found at that pig farm, and I grew up in that town, so I was just lucky," end quote. Bonnie got into drug use and was a sex worker, and ended up living in the streets of Vancouver's downtown east side for more than 2 decades before moving to Edmonton, Alberta. At one point, she told her friends she considers herself a survivor, but by February 2006, Bonnie was back to using drugs. Still, she was determined to get off the streets. Kate Quinn of Edmonton's Prostitution Awareness and Action Foundation gave her the name of a counseling service and a referral to a job placement agency. That was the last time that she saw her. In May 2006, the 37-year-old's body was discovered in a rural area just east of Edmonton. Foul play is suspected. The care unit, an RCMP entity, again is there to investigate her situation. However, there's no further updates on her case either. Bonnie Marie Joseph. Bonnie was 32 when she was last seen on September 8, 2007, in Vanderhoof, British Columbia, and was reported missing in December of 2007. RCMP, like in many other cases, say she led a high-risk lifestyle and was known to hitchhike alone between Fort St. James, Vanderhoof, and Prince George, British Columbia. She was also known as Bonnie M. Joseph and was part of the Yukutche First Nation. Prince George RCMP are in charge of the investigation. Family reports Bonnie was hitchhiking from Vanderhoof to Prince George because she had a court date the next day. She was nearing the end of this series of court dates that she had had in order to get her children back. She was close to getting them back as she had never missed a single court date until the September 9th one. She was reported missing by December 2007 by her aunt, Rose Joseph. Her family considers her disappearance to be out of character. According to her cousin Vanessa Joseph, before Bonnie was reported missing, and after she was last seen, her wallet and ID were found near a lake, and an uncashed check was still in it. It was turned into the RCMP, who reported this discovery to Bonnie Joseph's sister, Sharon, later that year. Still, nothing else has come from her case. And I know there are a lot of cases this week that we just simply don't know any information. But I think that's one of the main points of this podcast is we want to get this information out there. Maybe somebody remembers something. Maybe somebody saw something. Some of these were years ago, but that doesn't mean that there's no hope left. So, to all those out there, remember, be careful. It's a dangerous world we live in.